Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today, I've got 5 stories for you from the Malicious Compliance subreddit. Before we start, make sure to check out my website, CanadianRob.com, where you can pick up your own KCC Carmen Chameleon 3D printed chameleon figure. And yes, it comes with cookies. Again, that's CanadianRob.com. Alright, over to the stories. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Nighthawk580. I'm just a bartender and you know everything? Okay, have a nice shower. Happened about 10 years ago now. I'd been working in catering and hospitality, managing pubs, for about 10 years at that stage. The catering company I worked for had come up short-staffed for a small function or festival they were putting on. Probably max 200 people at a venue they controlled. I was in a different division, but was asked to help out on the bar and the bump in and out. Easy enough, and the music was looking pretty good, so I agreed. It was in the middle of spring, the weather had not yet been really warm, so we were expecting decent numbers but nothing special. Bringing in the bar was easy enough, the venue was massive and easily able to accommodate the truck, etc. Having a single mobile bar with just one tap tree was probably on the light side, but I figured the venue manager knew what he was doing. So I introduced myself to him and got to work. I unloaded and brought all the gear and beverages in and made a couple of attempts to discuss how we'd set up the service area. Each time was shut down with progressively more aggressive language until he finally told me, "I've run dozens of functions in this venue. I think I know how to set it up. We really only asked for a bartender." Okay, no problem, I thought. I didn't mention to him that it had been me that had picked up the truck from the warehouse, collected the bar and 10 kegs from our supplier, as well as the other beverage package, and delivered it to him. Or that I was the only one able to bump it all out at the end of the evening. So I just agreed with whatever he said and set up how he wanted. So the weather ended up being a beautiful day, about 27 Celsius, 80 Fahrenheit with a light breeze, and the turnout was more like 400, much better than expected. Pretty quickly, it turned out that we were struggling to keep up with bar services. So I suggested that rather than traditional service, we should have one person on the till, one person constantly pouring beers, never shut off the tap, and one person filling other drinks, wine and soft drinks, etc. Again, I was snapped at by the now clearly stressed venue supervisor. "You just keep serving and let me do the thinking." Okay, so now I'd had enough. Customers were getting frustrated at the slow service, and this peanut was too proud to accept advice from someone far more experienced. And then the keg blew. I was about to change it when the peanut stepped in and said he would take care of it. I checked that he knew what he was doing and was assured he'd done it hundreds of times and to back off and leave him to it. So I did. I watched him not uncouple the gas line and go straight for the beer lock. Happily, he had his face right in the spot, so as soon as he cracked the lock, he copped a huge spray in the face of nice warm beer foam, all through his hair and all over his glasses. Wet all down the front of his shirt as well. It was glorious, and the first 30 people in line thought so as well, because they'd witnessed some of his antics. I didn't hear much out of him for the rest of the day. He asked me to change the kegs when needed, and pretty much stayed away from the service area. We streamlined things as well, and although it didn't end up a success as far as customer satisfaction, it was not the disaster that was brewing. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Bowslayer. It says, "I am a delivery driver for a local distributor and knew from the title what would happen. Good read still, this guy got what was coming." I love malicious compliance stories where big doses of karma get dealt out to those who deserve it. And this one right here is one of the better ones. The only thing that could have made this better OP is if when he stood up, you looked at him and said, "Oh, what are you doing? Employees don't get free drinks." This story comes to us from White Cherry Rose. "You want proof that my fiance is sick? You got it. I, 25 female, am engaged to my fiance Joey, 26 male. He recently had surgery on his leg and hip, but there were complications, and he has been sick and weak since. We try not to ask for help, but this has put a big financial strain on us, to the point where we spend our wedding savings on his recovery. We are fine with this because if we need to have a courthouse wedding, we're cool with it. We just want him to be healthy. But we did set up a temporary donation page to help with some of the expenses. A friend of mine, Carla, 25 female, donated $10 about a month ago, and I reached out to her to thank her. Last week, we posted an update, not asking for more money, but just to let people know that Joey has had another setback and the doctors are creating an all-new treatment plan for him. Carla commented publicly and said the following: "I'm beginning to question if he has actually been sick this long, or if y'all are just trying to get more money for your wedding. Who takes this long to recover from surgery, especially when you're an athlete?" I said, "I'm very offended and appalled that you would accuse us of faking anything. Maybe you're just having a bad day or a moment of bad judgment, but how shamefully low of you." She replied, "I want my donation back unless you can show proof that he's sick, in a hospital bed, or sitting in a doctor's office, anything." I sent her $10 to get her off our backs, but I also sent her a video with Joey's approval, the proof she asked for. One of the concerns Joey has had is that he will get severely nauseous if he eats protein, which is what he's supposed to be doing, and when he overexerts himself, which he does sometimes. I sent her a video of him dry heaving into an emesis bag in the middle of PT. Now, one of his doctors asked us to record his PT so they can see the progression of him not feeling well to hopefully make some adjustments. So I didn't take this video just to send to Carla, but to me, it seemed like solid proof since she was asking for it. She said, "What the heck? I have emetophobia. I didn't know this, and it just triggered me so bad. I hope you're happy with yourself. I feel like I've been traumatized." I said, "So now you have $10 more to process this trauma in therapy." Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Shibe of Wisdom. It says, "Oh, you have emetophobia? Where's your proof? Either a written diagnosis or a testimonial from your primary care provider will be enough. Otherwise, you're just doing this for attention and sympathy." Yes, OP, throw it right back in their faces. Give them the exact dose of what they gave to you. Oh my gosh, this story was a missed opportunity. This story comes to us from Rodum Roomba. "I used my meal plan to feed over 120 less fortunate people." This happened my freshman year of college about 20 years ago. My university had just invested in a big new dining hall, and to help pay for their investment required all new students to buy a 150 meal plan both semesters. This was a big financial burden being from a lower middle class family, but my parents pooled funds to help me out and make it happen. Shortly into my first semester, I found out from friends that the meals you didn't use didn't roll over. Since I lived off campus, I knew I wouldn't be able to use them all. Heading into November, I realized I would end up with 60 to 75 meals left over, and I complained about this a lot to family and friends because it seemed like such a waste. In comes the plan. My freshman year of college was also my cousin's senior year, and we hung out pretty often. He was the biggest trickster and prankster type you ever met. One night, while we were drinking, he says, "What if you brought a bunch of homeless people to use up your meals? How much would that piss off those self-righteous bastards?" We laughed all night, but the more I thought about the idea, the more I really started to like it. We talked all weekend about it and hatched a plan. On Monday morning, we went down to the local Salvation Army around the corner. I have grown to really despise this organization, but in the early 2000s in small town USA, it's what we had. We told the lady at the desk I would like to feed people in need with my meal plan. She was hesitant at first, but said she was working with people that this would be a huge blessing to, especially during the holiday season. She helped me organize 2 days the following week where around 30 people would meet me to eat at the dining hall. I would wear a certain hat so they could find me, and we would go eat. The day finally arrived and all kinds of people were there. There were homeless people in tattered clothes. There were families with kids that seemed excited to eat out. There was even one family I will always remember that seemed embarrassed to take a handout, but I made an effort to talk to everybody and make them feel welcomed. At noon, we headed into the dining hall. I walked up to the lady at the entrance and said, "These people are with me, they are my friends. I would like to swipe them in." She looked confused, but reluctantly said okay. To say we got every reaction humanly possible would be an understatement. There were staff that were obviously annoyed with the influx of diners. There were students that were laughing. There were students that were giving me the silent clap. There were snobbish faculty members that seemed to be disgusted at the type of people coming into the dining hall. I didn't care at all. Eventually, a head staff member came up and said they knew what I was doing and they didn't like it. I said, "These are my friends eating with me. I paid for these meals. Am I doing anything wrong?" She was stumped. The next day, the same situation happened with the same reactions. It seemed that I had caused quite a stir on campus, and it just so happened that the university president was eating there that day. She came up to me and said even though she would ask that I not tell my friends to do the same thing with their meals, as the staff couldn't handle the influx of diners, she was proud that her students had the heart to do something for others like that. The following semester, I did the exact same thing. I even used my meals sparingly so I could bring more people. The one memory that will always stick out in my head is the family with the little kids so excited to go to the pizza bar and soft serve ice cream machine, giggling the whole time. To this day, it's still one of the proudest moments of my life. Me and my friends and family still have a drink and chuckle over the story and snooty, angry reactions I got. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Mr. X the Shadow Lurker. It says, "Bro, you're a legend. I wish more people in the world had the same type of compassion as you. I'm pretty sure you made unforgettable memories for many people that day. I really hope life blesses you for this moment." OP responded to this one and said, "I've always liked how compassion came out of joking around and trying to stick it to the man. Truly unintended result." OP, I understand you were trying to stick it to the school and trying to use up all the funds that your family spent on your meal plan, but you really did something nice for those people. Those people who wouldn't be getting a meal like that otherwise. OP, even though you might not realize it, your heart's pretty big, and that's pretty awesome. This story comes to us from Muted Problem 7700. I really have to shake everyone's hand? Okay. English isn't my first language, so sorry in advance for all the stuff I will mispronounce in your heads. This happened like 15 years ago in Germany. I was in my apprenticeship in a big coal mine, once the pride of Germany industry. We were 50 apprentices every year. Here, you have to do 3 years apprenticeship before you become an electrician, for example. And my company employed around 4,000 people at that time. The coal sector in Germany was in decline, and it was cheaper to import coal from China, Poland, or Australia. So the company got big subsidies by the state, and it showed. Stuff wasn't replaced. People had to do more shifts. All in all, there was an atmosphere, especially in management, of having to prove you are still useful in a sense. While most people were pretty chill, retirement plans for the older workers were solid, and us younger people knew we weren't going to work there long term from the beginning. The upper management still wanted to show they were the big shots. So one day, all apprentices called into a big meeting with the top manager of our section, and he told us that we had too much sick days. In Germany, you can have as many sick days as you need, and you get paid for them in full. There are some other things about pay and sick days in Germany not important to this story, but if you want to nitpick or learn more, just read up on German labor laws. It's fun, I promise. He even had a full PowerPoint presentation with how many days we had, what was the reason, there were charts and figures and such stuff. The whole management spiel. In the end, his idea was that from now on, we had to give our sick notice to him personally in his office at the first day of absence. This is kinda not 100% legal, I guess. I'm no lawyer. But we were all young people and had little to no knowledge about this. Why he wanted to do it this way was clear. He thought many of us were faking their sickness to get a long weekend or whatever. Up to then, you only had to phone in when you were sick and could either send your doctor's notice by mail or bring it in and leave it at the office receptionist. Wasn't good enough anymore, I guess. Directly the week after the meeting, I got a bad stomach bug. Don't ask me what it was. Maybe I ate something bad or it was just the season, no idea. After I spray painted my parents' bathroom all night, I got to my doctor first thing in the morning. And I got a doctor's notice and was instructed to not go under people for the next couple of days in case I was contagious. So I went home and phoned the receptionist at the office to tell them I was sick and I couldn't come in. He transferred me to the manager, who told me I had to hand him the note personally. No ifs or buts. If I didn't, I would get a write-up or worse. I knew he thought I was lying and that didn't sit right with me. In all the time there, I only missed work for 1 week, and that was because I had a broken foot. Yes, I worked in a coal mine with a broken foot. I am not nearly as tough as this makes me sound. And I didn't like to be accused like that, even though it was only implied. By law, you're not forced to tell your employer why you are sick, only that you are sick. Cue my malicious compliance. I said, sure, I will be right there. I got into my car, drove to my workplace, and got to the office. My manager was in a meeting with some higher-ups in the company, and I was instructed to wait. But as he heard I was there, I was invited into the room full of people in expensive suits who looked like they had serious business to do. Or whatever, maybe the cookies were good there, I don't know. So he made me stand in front of all these important people in the company and made me introduce myself to everyone with a handshake. I didn't protest. Why would I? He insisted. I shook the hands of the manager of production and finances and development, everyone who was there, and I introduced myself. I'm sure it was meant to scare me into not having any false sick days anymore. Then, with a triumphant smile, he asked me why I was there, and I pulled out my doctor's notice, gave it to him, and said, "As you instructed me, I had to give you my doctor's notice in person. I got a bad case of stomach flu this night, and just wanted to let you know I will be sick for the rest of the week." The faces were priceless, and he pushed me out way too fast for me to really cherish the situation. My stomach was better by next week, and the rule about our sick days was lifted. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Sharpcoat3797. It says, "Any idea if the suits had to personally hand him sick notes after about 2 days of flu incubation period?" OP responded to this one and said, "I wish I would know, but that information was not given to a lowly apprentice like me. But it must have had a lasting impact, as there was no more talk of sick days, and the rule was silently phased out the next week." Well, I don't know about you all, but I was kinda hoping that OP was going to walk into that office and spew all over the place, preferably after shaking everybody's hand, just so they could see how sick OP was. Can you imagine the conversation in that room after OP left? All those higher up suits looking at this manager, wondering why the heck the sick people had to come in to hand in the notes. I bet that manager got a dressing down. Rightfully so. This story comes to us from NoLobster177. Put in my 2 weeks notice, covert narcissistic supervisor reveals herself. I, 30 female, have been working at a super small construction company for the past 2 years. I've put my best foot forward every day and never had any issues with anyone in the company. As of 3 months ago, they moved me from an infield coordinator to an accounting position. It was an emergency move as one of the employees stole $80,000 from the company and they needed an immediate replacement. My new supervisor, we'll call her Mary, 34 female, was always super kind to me and we've become pretty good in-work friends. Well, these past couple months have been heck. I hate the new position, and to be fair, I'm not very good at it. So I found a new position and I've been keeping it a secret for a while. I let the owner know first and he was very kind and receptive to it. The issue started when Mary got word of it. She immediately cornered me and started going on this rant, saying things like, "Why didn't you tell me? You're being incredibly unfair and selfish. I can't believe you would do this to us. This is unacceptable. Don't ask me for a referral because you're not getting one from me, etc. I politely told her that the opportunity was something I simply couldn't pass up. She then went to the owner and asked for any details I might have given to him about the new company and new position. I believe to try to sabotage me leaving. And thankfully, I hadn't discussed any details about it with anyone. It was awkward after that, but I didn't think anything of it. The next day, when things took a turn for the worst, Mary decided to be petty and removed all of my authorizations to any accounts I had, so I couldn't perform any of my daily tasks. I didn't want to leave on a sour note, so I brought it up to the owner as Mary was out of office that day. He reauthorized my accounts and I continued to work. Mary was back the following day and was completely livid that I had went around her and talked directly to the owner. Her actions towards me would only get worse from here on out. The next day, I came in to notice that my desk was moved and my computer access was taken away yet again. Cue the malicious compliance. Since I couldn't do any of my daily tasks and really didn't feel like dealing with the screaming Mary, I was on Reddit for basically the whole day. At the end of the day, Mary came into my new back storage office and said, "Busy day today? I know mine was." I just smiled and said, "Yep, exhausting." She did not like that response and went to the owner to say that I was purposefully not doing my job, and my last 2 weeks would be pointless, so we should just let her, me, go now. The owner disagrees, calls me into his office, and after I explained what she had done, he gave me access again, and told Mary to work from home. Another day goes by. It's extremely peaceful now that Mary is working remote, but unfortunately, this does not mean my day was getting any easier. Instead of taking my access away, she had IT start forwarding all my emails to other employees in other departments that had nothing to do with my specific position. At this point, I only had 3 days left, and so I just took it as, okay, this sucks for them, but it's on Mary's head if anyone has any questions. I looked at my PTO, and I had way more than I had thought, so why not use those for my last days? And that's exactly what I did. I was originally supposed to let all vendors know and start forwarding them off to the appropriate people and interview second-round candidates for my position. But not anymore. The owner was completely okay with it and understood that Mary was being toxic and that he would have a talk with her about her attitude and position if this continues. Now, with my last 2 days and me being on PTO, I finally thought I was safe from Mary, but lo and behold, she was still holding a massive grudge, as if me leaving my position was a personal attack on her. She called me at 4:30 in the morning and left me a voicemail saying our company was having an accounting emergency and I need to come in immediately. I called her back about 4 hours later, which she was fuming about, and went on a massive rant about how I'm extremely entitled. I will never get anywhere with my attitude. She's embarrassed for our company to say that I ever worked there. That if she ever finds out where I will be working, she will make sure that I'm fired and will never get a job in this town again. I laughed at her and she went ballistic. Like when you take a 4-year-old's toy away, screaming so loud her voice was shaking, saying silly things like I have no respect for her or the company and that I will rot in hell. I hung up on her once she started bringing my family into things. I called the owner and explained to him what happened, which he wasn't shocked about, and had told me that when she came in that morning, she was going on a rampage like the Tasmanian devil. After finding out why she was freaking out, he promptly fired her. I was shocked, since this was such a small company and he definitely needed her. I had heard from another coworker that she ended up destroying a bunch of company property on her way out, and now she's facing a lawsuit due to the damages. So thankful she revealed her true self to everyone, and that I'm far, far away from that company and her. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called 7399Genelope. It says, laugh out loud, wow. That lady burned a lot of bridges. She'll have crappy luck getting a new job. Laugh out loud, I bet she applies to your new company at some point. A couple days ago on the KCC channel here, we covered a story from another user of Reddit who had that happen to them. Their old boss, who was a pain in the ass, ended up applying for a job at OP's new place of work, and they had the wonderful ability to deny their application. OP, if this happens to you and this person applies to the new company that you're going to, you need to ask your boss if you can be in that interview room when they come in, because they will be so uncomfortable they'd probably get up and walk out on their own.